Hey lads, we are going to another tournament today. The Rising Star April tournament. It is a 50 plus 10 second of move, 4 rounds, Swiss style. I've done a lot of these tournaments at the Rising Star location. They're the best run in Phoenix. Yeah, fantastic tournament. I'm excited. 4 wins. Here we go. I'm in the 14 to 1600 bracket range, so let's see if we can just win. I'm going to play as best as I can today. Round 1 started, sat at the board. I played the move d4, and my opponent didn't show up. 5 minutes passed, 10 minutes passed, 20 minutes passed, and finally half an hour passed, and the tournament director told me, "Oh, and you technically win this game, so you are 1-0 for the 4 rounds of the tournament." Now, I was happy to hear that, and then I found out it doesn't actually affect my rating. I thought I was going to win some points for this game, and so that was like, come on. But the tournament director said that I could play another opponent that would be a rated game, but wouldn't count towards the official tournament standings for the prize money. I'm always happy to play a rated game of chess, and so I sat down at the board across from a young man named Tanner. His rating was 1329, and my rating was 1403 at the start of this tournament. I played the move d4. He responded with d5. I played knight c3, and then he played c5. Now, the move c5 doesn't bother me. I don't know why, but in this game, I sort of had a mental collapse and thought that this was like a Benoni kind of move. And I just sort of lost all my sort of theory about this position. I know what to do in this position, but I just thought it was something that it wasn't. I played the best move, which was bishop f4, and then he responded with the move a6, seeing that both of my pieces are maybe lining up on this c7 square. So he just wants to eliminate my knight from coming to b5. Kind of logical, but not a great move. In this position, the simple thing to do is just take the pawn. I mean, it's a free pawn. It's sitting there. And I knew this. Now, if he responds with a knight to f6, I can just play a3 and then b4. And we're defending this pawn. So here it might transpose like this. He wants to attack the pawn with his bishop, and so we just defend it. This is fine. I'm up a pawn. And you can see the engine says I'm almost up 1 point of material. If he does want to just attack straight away, he can play the move e6. And I know this move. I just hear it play e4. And it looks a bit weird, but this is something that I'm totally comfortable playing. The top engine move is d4. But more often than not, they play knight to f6. This is also one of the best moves by the engine. And here you can just recapture e takes d5, and here bishop takes c5. And so you're still up a pawn. There's this tension here in the middle, and you can just capture. Yeah, their next bishop can develop, or they can take your queen and then take with the bishop. Either way, you're up a whole pawn, so you're doing fine. None of this happened. Instead, I mistakenly played e3, which is one of the first few moves you always do in the Jobava. And this allowed him to play the move c4. c4 really annoys me. I hate this move. And it just means my bishop can never get out. And the way I went about dealing with c4 was completely wrong. I tried to attack c4 at the head of the pawn chain when I really need to be attacking the pawn chain, which are these 2 pawns. I always need to be attacking it at the base. And so b3 was completely inaccurate. I should have been playing e4 here, attacking the base. His best move is e6. Here we can capture. That's fine if we want to do that. But then maybe a3 just to stop his bishop coming in and pinning our knight. We can develop very simply, just attack this pawn. We have a3 here, so we're not pinned, and everything's going to be looking okay. Not going to be an issue. However, I didn't do this, and I attacked with b3, and he brought his queen in to a5, pinning my knight. My knight is not defended, so I have to defend this knight. So I play the move queen d2, defending the knight. And here he plays e6, getting ready to add another attacker to the pinned piece. Now the piece is not pinned anymore, and technically here I could move it if I wanted to. If I had a brain, I would have. Knight d1 looks totally fine here. If he wants to take, I can just recapture. And if he wants to play here, we can just go c3. And we're doing totally fine here. No issues at all. I don't know why I didn't do these things. So after e6, I took the pawn. Not sure why. And he played bishop to b4. Here my knight is attacked twice by both of these pieces and only defended once. So what way can I defend it? Well, there's only one way. Knight ge2. And now that knight is defended twice. He captured the pawn back. And here, the position is fairly equal. However, this pin is quite annoying. I can't move my knight because he takes my queen. And so I really need to get out of this pin immediately. And the best way to do this is just playing a3. If I play a3 here, and he takes my knight, then I recapture. And I'm doing very, very well. Engine says I'm up 2.2. If he instead moves his bishop, let's say his bishop comes back to here, then there's no more pin, no more issue. His best move in this position is knight f6, which is kind of hard to see at first, but technically I can't take this bishop because the queen takes here with check. So I would have to get out of this threat here. So the move now would be rook a2. The knight is defending the rook, and now I can take the bishop because he can't take here. The knight will take the queen. I didn't find pawn to a3. Instead, I played the move pawn to e4. The reason for playing e4 was because I was worried about another knight coming here and jumping into the position, attacking a pinned piece. And so I wanted a pawn to stop a knight getting to this square. And I thought he could do that like this, or he could do it like this. So multiple ways for him to attack this pinned piece, and I can't really defend it any more than I am. I really should have just played a3, but I didn't. Knight f6. I played f3 because, again, he can take this pawn and attack the pinned piece. And so I don't want him taking the pawn. I have to defend the pawn. And here he castles. A very good, safe move. His king's never going to be in danger. And I play king f2. I was like, if I can't defend this knight enough, I better just get out of the pin. So I start moving my pieces away. Now the knight is still pinned because it's the queen who's on the other side of it. And so his knight came into c6. And I don't really have the time to make the moves that I want to make. Here, I really would like to move my queen. But I thought, that's not going to happen because this pawn is very weak. Technically, he can take this pawn. If I recapture, well, now I don't have an extra defender here. If he takes this pawn and I recapture with queen, well, then he can bring his rook into the action. And if my queen goes over here, it's just looking very ugly. I mean, his queen could take here, and then maybe he's winning this somehow. Not entirely sure, but it just didn't look super straightforward. So I played the move bishop to e5, defending that pawn. Now I realize after the fact that he can capture, I capture, and he captures and wins a pawn, and still is attacking this pinned piece twice. The best move in this position still was a3, and even though this was a blunder, this move was the second best move in the position, and it's still technically inaccurate defending the pawn. So I really should have played a3. Here after the blunder, he took, I recaptured, he took, and in this position I played pawn to g3. I was looking at all these lines, seeing if the bishop comes here to attack my king. I don't want to have to move back this way, so I thought I would rather move it to the g2 square where it can maybe find a home. He plays the move b5, completely solidifying his pawns. He's already up a pawn, he's doing very well here, but just look at these bishops. These two bishops are extremely powerful. This one can just come looking down this way. This one can come here looking down this way. And I'm not feeling very good. My king is somewhat exposed. I play a3 finally, and he just retreats. I was happy with this retreat to a5 because now I realized if the bishop comes here, it's not defended. So I thought I can actually put my queen here on e3. If I had put my queen here on e3 on the previous move, he could have retreated here, hitting it. And so I would have to block with the knight, and then he would take the knight, and I would just lose the game because I'd lose my queen. But now I can play the queen to e3, and he's not able to put his bishop here and pin me. So in this position, I thought he's probably going to move his rook over. And guess what? He moved his rook over. That way, he's defending this square, and he can put his bishop here. It's nice when you can read your opponent's mind. It's not nice when you're in the kind of position that I was in this game. I thought instead of moving my queen in lieu of this attack, I would just attack his queen. And so I thought here, maybe if he stupidly did go here, then I'm going to be doing very well. I can capture here, he recaptures, and I capture here. So I'm doing very fine, like totally fine there. This move was interesting, but not good enough. He just retreats his queen, and I move my king back to e1. I probably should have gone to g2, but I was scared about this bishop becoming very active, pinning yet another piece of mine. He goes bishop b7 anyway. I go bishop g2, and he moves his rook to the open file. I really don't like where my king is. I would love to be castled here and maybe hide it in the corner, but I don't want to go back here because this is just committing suicide. And so I decide I'm going to try fight for the file. He captures my rook. I capture his rook. He checks me, and I move over. And here I saw I've lost another pawn. This game is falling apart. I move my king. I'm like, I just need to get my rook out. You know, maybe I can get it to the file and start maybe looking down this way somehow. I don't know. He checks me. And I just was like, what am I doing? Like, this is so bad. So I lose my queen, and this is where I resign the game. So round one was a total failure, even though I was at the top of the bracket. 1-0 technically, but don't worry, games 2, 3 and 4 are much more exciting, and this is just what happens when you play chess. Sometimes you fall apart and your opponent pins you to death. Just so you know, Tanner played with an 86.2% accuracy, and I played with a 75.2. Well played, Tanner. Let's have a look at game 2. I'm excited to show you guys game 2 because it was a very fun one for me. I was playing against a young boy named Jaden, and his rating was 1343. He played c4. So what do you think I played? The old f5. We're going into the Dutch. He played knight c3. I go e6. He plays e3, a rather odd move. I played knight f6. Knight f3 was played, bishop e7, and d4. We're into the Dutch. Now I need to decide, is this going to be a classical Dutch? Is it going to be a stonewall Dutch? I wasn't entirely sure, and I couldn't really make up my mind, and so I played a very weird move, c6, which is kind of halfway between a stonewall and halfway between a classical. The classical is d6. The stonewall is d5, and this sort of prepares d5, but not really. So I kind of feel stupid about this move. But anyway, he develops his bishop to e2. I castle, he castles, and I play d6. Now, the reason that my moves were so sort of odd here was because I was trying to go for the report Dutch, which if you've been watching my YouTube channel, you'll see I've had some fantastic games with. The video yesterday, you'll see I beat a 21-46. I'm going to keep talking about this till the day I die, but I beat a 21-46 with the report Dutch. So you gotta watch that video if you haven't seen it. But I love the report Dutch. I wasn't able to get it this game, and so I was kind of playing something weird. I don't know what this was. kind of like a classical here. He plays the move c2, queen c2. I play a5, just grabbing some space on the queen side, and he responds to this by playing b3. b3 is fine. I was thinking of bringing my knight to a6 and then all the way over to b4. So that's what I continued to do. It's often an idea in the Dutch, but he plays a3 very promptly, and so now my knight is somewhat misplaced on the side of the board. I'm not able to jump it this way or this way, so I just have to hold tight with that piece for now, but don't worry. I play d5. He plays bishop b2. What is this bishop looking at? Absolutely nothing. This pawn is never pushing forward, so this bishop is always going to be bad here. It should just stay here and look this way because there might be more of a pawn break here. But yeah, this bishop is just very poorly placed. Here I develop my knight into the center of the board. Knight e4 is often a move in a lot of Simon Williams's Dutch games. He suggests this move, but not on move 11. It's more like on move 5. So this doesn't really work. The whole idea of the knight to e4 normally is you can take here and the pawns get doubled, but there's no pawn here to even take. So this is a stupid move. He attacks my knight, and here I just start snaking my bishop because I want to snake it around to this side of the board. Now, if he takes here with knight, I actually fork both of his pieces, capture, capture, and I would be completely winning. So if he wants to take here, he needs to take with bishop. So this is what he does here. He takes with the bishop. But after this capture, I don't think I was losing for the rest of the game. I just felt very good about this. I recapture. All my pawns are locked with his pawns. The bishop's never coming over. This knight is never coming over. Look at it. It's just looking at these pawns. It can't come here. It's just very badly placed, very badly placed. And now this knight is very badly placed. So all of his pieces are just bad pieces. And I have two bishops, got the bishop pair, and they're both going to get very active on this side of the board. Both of my rooks can swing over and up into this game and just attack this king. Everything looks very simple. I play bishop d6 first because I didn't want him to close off my bishop off this diagonal. For example, let's say I had played queen e8. He could just go here, and then I'm going to have to waste the tempo going here and then here. So I wasn't a fan of that. So we just put the bishop immediately here. He attacks it, and I just drop it back. Here he plays the move f4. And I had to pause at this move for quite a while. I think I spent most of my time looking at this move, probably a good 10 minutes. The reason this move is hard to decide what to do is because you really don't like this pawn. My bishop is looking at it, and I want my bishop to be looking over at h2. And so capturing here makes a lot of sense. Then my bishop is very active. However, I realize that if I do capture, I just make his position way more comfortable than my position. So if I do capture here, let's just have a look at it. His rook's active, his knight's active, and most importantly, his queen's active. And I just thought I'm giving him way more activity than I'm getting with my bishop being open. So I didn't capture this pawn. Instead, I moved my queen h4. And I just thought I'll put up with having a bad bishop. He's got 3 bad pieces here. 4 technically. He plays g3, attacking my queen. I retreat the queen a square. And he moves his knight to g2, trying to maybe get into the position, getting his knight better placed. It wasn't doing much on e1. And here I decide I'm just going to pull the rook up. Let's pull the rook up, let's swing it across, and let's just go for checkmate. Here he plays rook f2. I play the move rook h6. I mean, it's very logical, isn't it? Like, I just want to take this pawn off, go for check, go for mate. He pulls his knight back so that his rook and his queen can both defend h2. But wasn't his knight already on e1? It was. And now it's just gone back there. So when he made this move, I kind of thought to myself, I must be doing well. Like, I must be doing really well. Now, the position says I'm slightly better than even, but I mean, the computer can take a hike. My position looks way easier to play. Sometimes the engine says things, but it's just practically like you have to play like a robot to be able to make this an even game. I swing my rook over to f8, even though the engine doesn't like my rook move. Rook to f8, it is the third best move. The best move was technically bishop e8 or knight b8, both which look not as great as the move I played. I'm going to stand by this move. The engine doesn't mind it. I don't know why it's inaccurate, but here my opponent played rook to g2, defending this pawn still, but not the best placement for the rook, and you'll see why in a second. I start swinging and snaking my bishops back into the position, hoping that I can maybe come here, take, and just bust everything open somehow. And here he goes, queen to f2. Now, I didn't see this tactic, and maybe you don't see it either, but there's a reason his rook on g2 is poorly placed. It can't move right now. And with that information, you should be able to see the tactic. Hopefully you could spot that. Pawn to e5, and then bishop to h3, getting rid of this nice rook. I didn't see it, and I just decided I'm going to move my knight into the position. The actual reason I played bishop to d8 originally was not to snake it around, but was just to make room for this knight. I saw that my knight was the worst placed piece, and I thought, how can I get it into the game and make it useful? So we continue with our plan. We jump it to c7. He goes knight to c2. His piece is still here, and I still have this tactic, but I miss it again. I go knight to e8, continuing my path towards victory. And it was right after playing this move that I saw, oh, bishop h3. And I was hoping that I would be able to play it on the next move. He played g4 though, so I saw I'm not going to be able to do that. After g4, I go queen g6, and he goes g5. In this position, I saw that this pawn was pinned, and so I started immediately thinking about capturing on g5. However, I didn't like that if I capture it right now, his rook could capture me. That didn't look so good. So I thought I have to move my rook. I thought, let's place it on h5 or h3. Now, h3 would have been better because it blocks the defense of h4, but I kind of forgot that in the middle of my calculation and thought I have to play it to h5 because if I go to h3, the pawn can come to h4. I don't know how that went through my brain, but it did. So I play rook h5 here, and he plays h4. So I play the only good move in this position, h6. Here he captured, and I retook with the queen, and now everything is just dreaming for me. He goes rook h2, trying to defend this pawn. It's attacked twice, thrice, so he defends it twice. Now I could just capture it here with my rook, but instead I capture it with my bishop, tempoing his queen. And here I was very surprised. His queen stays over by the king. I was really shocked by this because I thought I can just come here. So that's what I tried to do, bring my rook in. He moves his king over. I attack his queen. And here I thought his queen's going this way or over here or here. But it came to h3, which I was really surprised about. And I saw I had tactics here. I moved my knight in, just developing more pieces. And look at his pieces. He's got 3 pieces that aren't even involved in the game. And I am attacking with 5. So this is beautiful. His rook comes over, and here I spot the tactic. Rook captures, king captures, bishop f2, check. He has to deal with the bishop. If he takes with the king, I win the queen. If he takes with the rook, I win the queen. So he takes with the king, I capture, he captures, I capture. He moves his knight over, and the rest of the game is history. Check, he moves, check, he moves, check, he moves, capture a free piece, he moves his bishop. I reposition my bishop to a square where it wants to look at. He moves his king, and now it's a forced mate. Check, check, and checkmate. This was a very good game by me. I thought that this was one of my better Dutch games. You could just see how active my pieces were in this attack. And I think one of the key moments for it was when he played f4. And I decided to just put up with the discomfort of my bishop not being active so that all of his pieces were going to remain inactive. I did miss a couple tactics, but I repositioned this knight around to get into the position. And I just think overall, I think I played this game positionally a lot better than my opponent. So I was very happy with this game. My opponent played with a rating of 76.6 and I played with a rating of 89.6. So I was very happy with this one. Let's have a look at game 3, a game that I played even more accurately. Game 3, we played against a young boy named Ethan. He was rated 1330. I played d4, he played d5, I played knight c3, he played knight c6, already hinting at a mistake. I played bishop f4 and he played knight f6. Often your opponents, when you play the Jobava, they get into this kind of position and it's really, really ugly. Putting both your knights out is like such a typical way to just develop that a lot of people fall into this mistake against the Jobava. I don't really see it in my games over 1900, like maybe one every 30, 40 games, maybe one every 40 games, maybe, but like it's pretty rare. We just go knight b5 here and attack that c7 pawn. How do you defend this? There's no knight to jump to a6, which is why it's wrong to bring the knight out to c6. The only way to defend it is the way that my opponent played. He plays pawn to e5. And here I can capture this pawn both ways. It doesn't really matter which. I know that the bishop captures is slightly better, so that's what I went for. And he recaptured, best move, and I take hitting his knight. So now either his knight has to move or he has to attack my knight. His best response is this move, pawn to a6, hitting my knight. And here I would just play knight c3, and then he can either try to move this knight or attack my knight again. His best move here is d4. I just don't see this very likely to happen. I think it's more likely that someone's going to move their knight and attack the pawn. So this would be a typical sort of way to get out of this trap. However, in this position, I took his knight, and instead of attacking my knight or playing that top line, he plays his knight back to g8, just retreating it. And so in this position, I play a very beautiful move, which if you've seen my channel, you know. Queen captures the pawn on d5. You're like, what? Yeah, because if the queen recaptures me, then I can take another pawn with check, picking up the queen on the next move. So this is an obvious move for me. He blocks with the bishop. Here I castle, and he plays c6, forking both my pieces. But you're never in danger with a fork if one of those pieces can get out of the fork with a check. And so I play the only move, knight to d6 check. He has to take, I recapture, and now I have two pieces looking at this beautiful bishop here. He's defending twice, so he really can't castle his king. He can't get out of danger here very easily. He puts his knight on e7, but again, he can't castle because I can just take the bishop, so he's really stuck. So I just spend the next move, you know, opening up my position and getting my pieces ready to enter the game. Here he moves his knight to c8, attacking my queen, trying to get rid of it. And so I pull back to d4. Here my opponent plays knight to b6. And this next move was the only bad move of the game, and I realized that it was bad after his next move. He checks me on g5. And here I had to move my king to b1. That's what I thought was best. But now I don't really have as great of an advantage as I thought I did. I wanted to capture this pawn on g7, but now my opponent can just take here, and their queen's defending g7 because they were able to reposition it with a check. So I was a bit bummed about this, but after my opponent's next move, when I attacked the queen, they just pulled all the way back to e7. I was really surprised by this. So really they should have either gone queen a5, looking at a checkmate here, or queen d8, you know, hitting this, and I can't take here because then they take here with checkmate. So there was ways out of this for them, but they just put their queen on e7, and this allows me to take the pawn. He moves his rook, you know, trying to save his rook. Maybe the best move here is to put his queen here. You can try to swap off queens maybe, because his rook is defending this pawn. So after his rook goes here, he's not defending that pawn anymore. I move my knight in. He drops his bishop back because he doesn't want me to trade off any pieces. Quite sensible. And I just take that free pawn, also tempoing his rook. Here he castles, and I take the rook. So right now I am up 8 points of material. It's kind of crazy. So he recaptures. I'm only up 5, but the rest of the game's easy. Just develop to e2 with my bishop. His queen can't take the pawn because I can take his rook then. So he moves his rook over, and I put my bishop on g4, pinning this bishop to the king, just forcing another trade. He moves his bishop to e6, so I capture, he captures, and now that my pawn is in danger, I just defend it with f3. He pulls back, I go rook d3, he pulls his knight over to d7, and here I see I can pin the knight to the king. Now we're going to get another trade if I'm able to. He moves his rook over to defend, so it's defended 3 times, only attacked twice. So I attack 3 times, and now none of his pieces can move. They basically all have to stay there defending. And so in this position, he resigned. That was the quickest recap I've ever done. It was just a very simple game. The engine says that I played with a 94% accuracy on this one, my opponent with an 82.8. The Jobava London can be a very good opening, especially if your opponent doesn't really know some of those simple ideas in it. So I'm always happy when I see both the knights come out, because most people don't really know how to respond to it correctly, and they don't see the queen sacrifice often. So that was a good game. Let's jump into game 4, a game that's probably more interesting than all the other ones today, and a game that I think I learned the most from. Round 4 of the tournament, I was on 3 points and my opponent was on 3 points. His name was Alexander and he was rated 1344. I believe that he knew he was going to be playing me far earlier because I was the only other opponent with 3 points, and so he was able to look up my games and have a little study and figure out what lines I played. I don't know if it had much impact on this game, but I do think that's what he did, and he seemed to know sort of what I was playing when we sat down. He played the move e4, I played c6. He played d4, I played d5, and then he played the move f3, which was the move I lost to in the previous tournament. The game that I had lost to was that fantasy variation of the Caro Kann. And in that game, I actually took the pawn, and I didn't mean to do that. And so this game, I actually played the tournament the way that I wanted to play the previous week. I played the move e5, and this is a gambit, and it's one that I like to play. Now, I don't know if I'm going to continue playing this line because it's a gambit, you know, you're giving up a pawn. But in rapid games online, generally I think it's totally fine to play this kind of line because you can get some very aggressive, quick attacks. However, I don't know. I'm undecided on this, and I might look up for like maybe a different line in the future. He took the pawn. I played queen b6. He brought his knight out to c3, top engine move, and I brought my bishop out to c5. So both of my pieces are eyeing this knight on g1. I want to take that knight. And so he does the best move, attacking my queen and my bishop. Other than this move, the game's completely drawn, or I have a complete advantage. So this is really the only way to stop it. Now, the reason this works is because I can't take this knight because he takes my queen. So after this move, the only move that I really can play is a check with either the bishop or with the queen. And both work. If I go the queen check, he can play c3 and defend his knight. And if I go with the bishop check, which is what I did in the game, he can just play king to e2. If he mistakenly plays the king here, this is a mate in one. And so he didn't do that. But yeah, he played the king to e2. In this position, I played queen d4. I knew it was the best move. Queen takes, bishop takes, and I'm eyeing this pawn. However, I'm already down a pawn, and it's his move. And so he can capture my other pawn here. Now, I probably, if I do play this line in the future, will play it where I take this, he takes, and I recapture. I'll have two pieces developed, and he'll have a knight on the rim, and that's how I'll play it. But I actually, instead of taking this pawn, I instead played the second best move in the position, which is one I've never played. And I didn't know it was the second best move, but I did know that it looked interesting. And I wanted to get my opponent out of theory because it seemed like he knew everything that I was playing. I thought I'll play b5, attacking this knight. And it looks like the knight can't jump here or here. And so it's probably going to jump back to c3, which is what he played. And I just really thought this was a fantastic position for me. Now, the engine says I need to either play b4 and hit this knight again, forcing the knight to go probably back to a4, or I take this pawn in the middle, and I really should take the pawn in the middle. But here, I thought it just looks really good if I can capture here and double his pawns. So that's what I went for. A big mistake. And you can see the engine, the bar there, 2.2 points of material advantage for white. So really not good by me. He captures. I just thought this looked good for me, but actually he's up 2 pawns now. And I'm struggling to play here. I captured one. So now he's only up 1 pawn, but my pawn's isolated in the center. It's an easy target. His activity is just as good as mine. So I really don't have an advantage here. I'm technically just down a complete pawn with isolated pawns. He attacks with a4, attacking my pawn on b5. I try to get rid of his pawn on e5, trying to develop a little bit here. But here he recaptures, and now he's up 2 pawns. So, and also this knight is just really bad. It doesn't come to any of these squares. I'd like to get it to c6, but this is just not good for me. Here I castle. I don't know if this was the best move. Maybe putting the king over here on f7 would have been slightly better than castling. I don't know about that. The engine says it isn't, but I don't know. Practically, it looks like it might be better to keep my king more in the center with queens off. The best move here by the engine is a5, which is a very weird move. I don't know if I would ever play this. Obviously, he can't take the pawn because I take his rook, and he doesn't want to take here because I activate my bishop looking at his king and bishop. So maybe this would have been a good move to play. I just didn't see it. I didn't even think about it. So I castled. Here he moves his king back to d1, allowing his bishop to defend this pawn. And I play the move bishop d7, a move that I really regret. I think this move hinders me more than it helps. I think maybe moving the knight to d7 would have been better, because this knight, when the bishop comes here, has no squares to jump to. So I wasn't happy with bishop d7 after I played it. he played c4, I took, he took with his bishop, check, I moved my king over, and this is probably why I didn't like my king on g8. Maybe if it was on f7, I could have moved here, or, I mean, obviously that's not good, but maybe it could have just been more centralized while his king was on the back rank, and a central king is often one that's able to fight in the endgame, much better. So maybe it would have been better, but I suppose my king is sort of safe on h8. There's no tactics on it, so I don't know. He attacks my knight on f6. I swing my rook over to d8, and he moved his king over to e1. If he had done something else, like, let's say, this move, then I'm winning because I can just capture the pawn with check and then pick this bishop up on the next move. So I was just trying to play for tricks when I moved my rook here. Even, something like, let's say he goes here. This might be even better. h3 here, capture here. I'm winning the rook. So there's ideas, but he clearly stepped out of the way like an intelligent human, and I bring my bishop to f5, just looking at the weak pawn. Here he took my knight, I took his bishop, and he moved his rook to d1. And after he moved this, I thought, oh, that looks like a mistake, because he's not able to maybe defend this pawn. So I thought, if I check his king, then the king has to go this way to defend the pawn. So I check his king, and he goes this way, and so now I can grab that pawn back, and I'm only down one pawn, which gave me a lot of hope. Now, actually, the best move in this position is knight to d7, just connecting both of the rooks. It would have been a much better move to play and given me much more practical chances. And there's actually a reason why I not moving this knight was a big issue. My rook's on a8, and it can easily be targeted by this bishop, and you'll see in a few moves why that's such a big issue. I move to e8, check, he moves over, I take the pawn, and now you can see why this move was so bad by me. First, he moves his rook out of danger, and I'm forced to move my bishop, and I can't defend this rook on a8. I can't come here to defend it. I end up playing an okay move, but there's no way to have a good position here. I spent probably 15 minutes on this move, really trying to think, is there any way to like come here and attack this pawn? Because I know he's going to come here. Maybe I can grab here, maybe I can have something. But I ended up just bringing my bishop back to g6. I thought this is probably the most solid, most sound sort of way to play, and I'll have to give up the exchange. He moves his bishop, I move my knight, he captures, I capture. Apparently capturing's wrong. I should play e5, which is very weird. I don't think I would ever do that. This is the move, so I suppose it makes sense why I would want to do this. But I captured his bishop, and he moved his knight. Here I was thinking, well, the game's probably over. I'm down the exchange, and he's got an extra pawn. But I move my knight into e5, thinking I might be able to do something tricky. There's a nice square here, and I have two pieces looking at it, and it forks his king and his rook. And he saw this, and thankfully, he played rook to d1. And I was very surprised when he did it, and I had to just like sit back and be like, oh, did I miss something? Like, this is obviously good for me. Is there a back rank or something? No, I'm fine. And so I threw the check in, and as soon as I did, I could see he hadn't even seen it, and he really was kicking himself. He thought, how did I miss something so stupid? He knew that I could jump in here, but I guess he forgot that I have two pieces looking at this square. And sometimes your brain just does something like that. Like you just don't see there's two pieces maybe attacking, and so you need to defend twice, not just once. Once doesn't do anything. So I jumped in, he took, I took, and now I was feeling maybe I can draw this game, or maybe I can get a win, if I'm really, I don't know, maybe it could happen. But I'm looking at this pawn, and so he defends the pawn, I attack the pawn twice, he defends the pawn twice, I move my rook up because I think I don't want his rook to infiltrate this 7th rank. He moves his king up to attack my bishop. I pull the bishop back to f1, looking at this pawn still. So these pieces really can't move away from the defense of this pawn. If I can get one pawn, then I might be back in this game. He attacks my pawn on f6, and apparently this is really good for me because I can capture here. He captures on f6, and I would be doing totally fine here. I can just go back to f1, and all 3 of his pawns are isolated, and I have a bishop in an endgame. This position's essentially drawn. This didn't happen in the game. I didn't decide to capture on g2 because it just looked kind of risky. I didn't want to go for this when his rook was here and his knight could maybe, you know, come in here, and it looked like it was kind of dangerous. But I just moved my king to g7 to defend that pawn. He played g4, and I moved my king up to g6, putting pressure on his rook. He plays h4, and here I play rook to e7 check. I thought that he was probably going to move his king over to f4, which is what he did, and then I thought I can attack his rook, which is what happened. I thought if I attack his rook, he either has h5 check, and then I move my king, and then he has to move his rook, or he just moves his rook immediately. And I thought either way, it looks like my bishop's better placed here. It controls some squares, and my rook is also cutting the king off. So I thought that this looked okay. He threw the check in first. I retreated to f7. Note that I can't come to g7 because he has d5, and I'm in big trouble here. I can't remember, what was it? Oh yeah. This move looked really dangerous, and I didn't want to have to trade off my bishop for the knight. Also, if I leave my bishop on this square, then he can throw this check in, but throw it in this way, so I would capture here and he'd capture here. So I just knew that I have to move the bishop, and I would have to defend this this square, so the bishop would have to go to this square to do any of that. Thankfully that didn't happen. I played king f7, so I didn't allow that check, that fork. Rook came to c5. I put my king on e8, and he moved his knight to f5. It was in this position that I offered my opponent a draw. I said, would you like a draw? He actually had said at the start of the game, hey, do you want to just make a few moves and get a draw? Because then we'll split the first place prize money. And he said that knowing that I was a higher rated opponent. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. I'm playing for rating. But then in this position, I said, do you want to have a draw? Because I thought maybe he wants to just split the prize money. And he said no, because he knew he was winning. And so here, I had the longest think of the game. I probably spent 20 minutes in this position looking at absolutely everything. Let me just show you. Rook f7 fails to this check. So I didn't want to do that. Rook c7 fails to rook takes c7. Rook b7 fails to knight d6, forking both the pieces. Rook g7 fails to him capturing. So the only real move that I had in this position was either capturing, which I didn't want to do because I think my bishop's better than his knight in an open endgame. So I played the next best move, which was rook to d7. Here he checked me, which I calculated. I calculated this whole line before I even went rook to d7. And then here he attacked on h7. In this position, I sat calculating like crazy. I was like f3, like 4, b5, like 8, 4, 8. I was like calculating like crazy. And then I stood up. And I was just like looking at the board. I was like calculating. I was like, I got to calculate this right. And I calculated it like an absolute pro and played the inaccurate move, bishop takes b5, thinking he's going to capture here on h7, which is what he did. And then I played immediately king g8, attacking here and giving him the rook. He took and I recaptured. And I just felt, yes, I calculated this so well. He moves his knight, I run. He moves his knight, I run. He moves his pawn, I capture, he captures. I move my king to h7. He moves his pawn to f4. I attack his knight. He has to block my pawn. And now I have a king and a bishop against 2 pawns. I knew that this endgame was completely drawn. All I have to do is, as soon as the pawn advances, I just capture it. And then he captures me and I take his other pawn. He can't win with a sole knight. If this knight ever moves, I can attack it and it has to just go straight back. So I knew this position was completely equal. And in this position, we drew the game. I was super happy to get a draw playing this game because it was really ugly in the middle game. My opponent played with an 80.8% accuracy and I played with an 81.8%. Because of the 2 wins and a draw that I got in this tournament, I went up from 1403 to 1456, my highest rating ever. But because of that first game loss that was rated in a different section, I actually went down from 1456 to 1427. So my official rating is now 1427. I wasn't too unhappy with that, getting 2 wins, a draw, and a loss. I went up a little bit, about 24 points. Pretty happy. Thanks so much for watching the video. I hope you're really enjoying these, and I'll continue making them, continue playing over the board chess. I love over the board chess, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye for now.